suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
That real good one is here for you. David Whiting is your talkback lawyer. He gives you great advice that would normally cost you, I don't know, a few $100 an hour, but you get it for free. Hello, Facebook. Welcome. Great to have you on board as we stream live here on our ABC Radio Melbourne Facebook page. In the studio, David Whiting, good morning to you.
Good morning, Virginia.
There's your close-up.
Yes.
Can you wave to everyone at home?
Done.
He's over there in the corner with the headphones on. How much an hour?
You don't want to know. You really don't.
I kind of do.
Oh, do you? $600 an hour,
Yeah.
including GST.
Wow.
Do I get it all the time? The answer is no. Because really there's large chunks of your day that you just don't recover.
Well, having said that, I now no longer want to waste a minute.
Okay.
I mean, this is the most expensive half hour of radio in Melbourne, isn't it? Yes, it is.
From whose point of view?
From yours.
Oh, yeah, probably, yes. And then it's the 20-minute walk at either end. You've got to add that in.
Please never bill us.
Okay.
Never to get the hump with us one day and
I
turn around
think
and go, you know
much
what
of it's
all those
statute
years?
barred, Virginia.
Really?
Yes.
There's today. We have a little bit of homework to do.
Look, we had a call last week in relation to diversion. Remember, we had a lawyer from St Kilda ringing up and saying, I've got a friend who was in the jury and was undertaking her own investigation,
yes. Don't
and
do
she's
that.
seen another lawyer and she's been asked to recommend her that she plead guilty. And we discussed a diversion program, and then we got an email when I got back to the office from a lawyer who says that effectively that while you need to acknowledge the elements of the offence, to get on the diversion program, there's actually no finding of guilt made by the court. And so no finding of guilt and not treated as a finding of guilt. Diversion program, the charges are dismissed.
But the larger issue was whether the friend might get the visa to America, and I think you were of the view that people who have had convictions recorded still can, from time to time,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, get
Yes.
visas.
Yep.
It's a matter of what you're convicted of, and
Yes.
I doubt that the US Embassy is going to pay much concern to that.
Question is, do you have to tell them is the difficulty?
You
It's
do.
the non-telling. I would think you'd have to tell them.
Oh, yeah, certainly tell
Yes.
and take your chances.
And tell them the charge was dismissed.
Exactly right.
Yes.
Yeah. And also
Yeah.
what it was. I don't think that's going to bother them so much.
No, but the
Given
other
that you
lawyer-
won't be appearing on a US jury, will you?
No. I don't think lawyers can go on US juries. They can here, but they can't there.
Australians can't go on US juries. Was the point I was making.
I think if you're is it limited to citizens or residents? Not that I'm about to move, but yeah.
Now we're just going down a rabbit hole.
Yes,
David
of course.
Whiting is here to answer your questions, so why am I wasting your time? We've got a quite an amusing one to finish with, though, just before we move to our calls. 1300 222 774.
This is a all-star baseball player called Les Dykstra in the States.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody wrote a book about him, and the man who wrote the book about him was less than flattering. And so Len issued proceedings in a superior court in the States seeking damages for libel. You've lied about me. And the judge says that based on the papers submitted on this motion prior to the publication of the book, Dykstra was infamous for being, among other things, racist, misogynist, anti-gay, a sexual predator, a drug abuser, a thief and an embezzler. And he had a reputation, largely due to his autobiography, of being willing to do anything to benefit himself and his team, including using steroids and blackmailing umpires. And then in all of the circumstances, the references in the book have not exposed Dykstra to any further public contempt, ridicule, aversion or disgust.
Meaning you actually can't defame him because he's so bad.
Yes, you can, but you have to work really hard. Yep.
He actually got there first.
Yes, he did indeed. He wrote an autobiography which was presumably warts and all, and therein lies the problem.
Okay, so don't go doing that.
No.
Because if you want to be able to sue for defamation later on, you've just pulled the rug out from underneath your own feet. 1300 222 774. First out of the blocks this morning is John in Callista. Hi, John.
Good morning. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, quick question. We live in Callista. Our daughter lives not far away elsewhere in the Dandenongs, where there's rural properties about. She went out for a walk on, last Tuesday morning with a group of her friends. Walked along beside a horse paddock. Horse came over, leant in to pat the horse. Accidentally, I think the horse did, but she touched the wires and got such a whack. Now, I grew up in the country. I've been hit by electric fences. You shake your arm, you walk away. She was still reeling from that about an hour later with the headache and the
Whoa.
I contacted her mother. I went down to pick her up, see how she was. I called a few GPs on the way, and they said go straight to the ED, which we did. We were there most of the afternoon. I mean, she was okay, but just feeling really woozy and lightheaded. They prioritised her case because...
Let's get to your legal question.
What's the question, John?
The question is no signage on that fence. I've found it very, very hard to get an idea of who's responsible, what's the regulations, what's the regulated voltage, and the only thing I can find is it must have signage, but nothing on current levels or anything like that.
John, I'm taking that one as homework. I have absolutely no idea. I imagine there would be some regulations, and it need to be, and I would have thought there'd be a safety requirement that it would trip if it was earthed, which your daughter would have done. And so I do know that anyway, so that's a homework question.
Okay, can I just say that in this particular instance, that there is like a little arm with an insulator and a charged wire on the inside, which is what you typically see.
Yes.
But there are also wires on the insulated wires on the outside of the posts as well, carrying a current. And to me, signage requirements aside, that appears to be a no-no because I thought...
I would agree with you, John. I'll come back to you next week.
Okay.
So we'll take that one as homework and we'll try and find out. Nice to hear from you. Thank you. Margaret has called in from Essendon. Margaret, good morning.
Good morning, David and Virginia. Just a query about what my rights are with regards to seeing the plans, the architectural plans for a residential property being built next door. I'm just having a few issues with the builder sending them to us. He's going in a roundabout way of not sending them to us.
I don't believe you're entitled to... They will have a planning permit for the building.
Yeah, which we haven't seen.
Which you have or haven't seen?
Haven't. He won't send that to us either.
And what is he asking you for? So has he already got a planning permit?
I'm assuming he has. I can't get a yes or a no answer out of him. So I've called the council.
Yes.
And they have suggested that... So they've said that we need to see the engineering reports, the certificate of engineering, the survey reports, a written recommendation from the building surveyor, and the architectural and the planning permit. But we haven't seen...
Let's split this in two, can we?
Okay, yep.
Visit a website called planningalerts.org.au.
Okay.
And type in the address of the property. Or type in your address if you like.
Yep.
And it provides a free service. I think it's fantastic. And it will tell you all of the planning applications that have been made or granted in your area, either by closeness to the property or time frame.
Get out. That's a great service.
That's fantastic.
Who compiles that, David?
They've got a web crawler which goes through all of the council websites.
Yep.
So
planningalerts.com.au.
No, .org.au.
Sorry, .org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got that. Thank you.
They are looking for money, but it's just a fantastic service. And then they will tell you, and that if there's an application made to council for a planning permit. Then because only councils can issue planning permits, then you will get details.
Okay, and the council won't even tell us that whether that's been approved or not.
Well, then I would have suggested that it might be a construction that doesn't require a planning permit. And if it's a construction that doesn't require a planning permit, you've got no right to see their building plans.
I don't have a right?
Well, you don't have the right to see what my house looks like, no.
Okay.
If it doesn't affect you.
Well, I'm allowed to do what I like in my own property if it meets planning requirements.
Okay.
So planning will be how close are you to the side boundary, how high you are. But, you might hate my mock Georgian front. You don't really have the right to complain about that.
And that's okay. I don't want to complain about that.
So
I just want to...
have a look at planning alerts. Start there. And council should provide you with details. You can pay a search fee and you should be able to get a copy of an application lodged with council for a planning permit. Building surveyors issue building permits, not planning permits.
Okay. Good luck.
Lovely. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Bye. Pat's calling in San Remo. Hello.
Oh, hello, David. Our garden, our neighbours have built his house next door, And our garden had a lot of native bushes in, which we've now removed and landscaping the front. Our family's doing it. And I've discovered that next door have diverted from their property into my garden their waste pipe.
From the roof?
No, on the ground.
No.
It's stormwater.
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 Yes.
Yes, the stormwater pipe is coming from their place into my garden. And, of course, all the fence is up now. So what do I do?
You ask them to, they are required for their stormwater to go to what's called the lawful point of discharge.
Right.
And the lawful point of discharge is not your garden. Right?
Yeah.
It will normally go into the council's stormwater system.
Yes.
So you could complain to council.
Yes.
In the event that you do need to litigate it, and I hope that you don't, then the matter goes to VCAT.
Yeah.
But in these particular cases at VCAT, it's under the Water Act and there are legal costs involved.
Right.
So-
For them or me.
Well, the answer is you'll end up paying some and you'll hope you'll get some back from them.
Yeah.
But it's not a lawful point of discharge. How old is their house?
Oh, only last year.
Oh, then I would
they
be
put
going
it
to the
up.
builder and the building surveyor because they probably shouldn't have issued a certificate of occupancy if the discharge is not appropriate.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I can go there because we've had other difficulties and they were very good
All right.
where that building permit was. So I'll go there first. Okay.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for calling in this morning. Thank you. Vince has called in from North Balwyn, and it's it's an evergreen, this one, and that's a deliberate pun because it's about trees. Hi, Vince.
Hi, Virginia. Hi, David.
Hi.
I have an ongoing problem with a tree that is right on my fence line. We erected a fence because of the ongoing issues with the home invasions when they were occurring, just to give my wife peace of mind when she's home. Now, we've got two large trees. When we first got a quote, we wanted to erect
Sorry, are these
brick
trees
fence.
on your property or your neighbour's property?
No, they're on my property.
Yes.
And when we went to get a quote for a brick fence, the bricker told us that it probably won't be wise to erect this fence because the trees are so close to the fence line that he can't guarantee that fence would last long because of movement with the trees.
Yes.
So we ended up putting in a picket fence, a steel picket fence in there. But the problem still existed after a number of years. It's lifted the driveway
Yes.
to the extent the sliding gate no longer works. And it also lifting the footpath, and my neighbour has concerns as well for his fence because there's been movement there.
Yes.
Now, I put in an application for the removal of this tree. It was knocked back and I appealed it. And I've also spoken to the local member and the mayor, and it's been ongoing for months now, and
Okay.
I've not heard a reply. So I'm just
Council knocked
wondering-
it back because they consider the tree too big or significant?
No, the tree's not significant. It's only a cedar tree, but because of the strict guidelines within the area, every tree is considered essential to the landscape.
Local laws in relation to trees
Yeah.
are absolutely
I
amazing.
know, and I know it can vary from place to place. So what does he do, David?
Well, what's his priority? Look, Vince, in practical terms, you just got to keep going the appeal. I imagine you can still go to VCAT if you're not happy, but I suppose it's you knew this was going to happen when you put in the fence.
Yeah.
Trees keep growing.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I've got, like I mentioned to the mayor when I rang her personally, I've got a large number. I've got about 12 trees on my property, and it's not that I'm a tree. I've lived in the area with my parents and so forth for in excess of 50 years. And
Vince,
we
why
know-
don't you talk to the council and see if you can do a trade? So you reach an agreement with council that says I won't cut these 5 down at all, or for 10 years or 20 years or whatever it is, if you let me cut that one down. And
I've done that, David.
Yes.
They're pretty stringent within there, and they say it doesn't work that way.
Is
We
it causing a
accept and
problem
we're-
for the neighbour?
Sorry?
Is it causing a problem for the neighbour?
Yes, it is. And I've also, with my application, I put details of the issues with my neighbour and everything, but they don't care. They're pretty strict in their views.
Well, I
that
think, Vince, they do care. They just don't care for exactly the same things that you do.
Yeah.
So my view is that whatever decision they make, if you get rejected in your permit for removal of a tree, there's every prospect that you can go to VCAT. But your arguments for VCAT need to look at, well, what's the policy for the trees? Is there an exceptional reason why this should go? Don't know.
Well, that's the thing, though, David, because they're adamant. When I spoke to them and I said, I'm prepared to take this to the nth degree, to have this tree removed, because I think it's a health and safety issue, not only for my family, but even for people walking by, because it's not only lifting my driveway.
What's the end point, Paul? Vince?
They tell me that the laws are that iron tight that I can take it to wherever I want, and I won't win because there's no... they're the first and only port of call.
Okay,
well, if that's the case, Vince, then there is nowhere to go. But Burundara Council, have a look at their website, look at their local laws in relation to trees, and read them line by line very, very carefully.
Vince, we'll leave it there, and we might see if there's anything that David can look up as well. But we're sort of going in circles now. That's a dreadful catch-22, though. The reason I asked the question about the neighbour was that surely then that shifts it to another position. If the neighbour got involved in this dispute and said, hey, there's a tree here that's pulling up our driveway, that's impinging on my property, it's not part of my property, they would have an action then that would suit the both of them.
You have a philosophical start point. Do I build to accommodate the landscape, or do I amend the landscape to accommodate the building? And that's the... So if I know...
Yes, but there's another issue of whether the tree is actually causing a nuisance.
Again, then what you should have done was build to accommodate it. Is what somebody would come back and say. So they're the two views. I mean, one could argue that, all trees create a nuisance of some kind at some point, so therefore they should all go. It's the trade. And, from a society point of view, maybe the tree stays. From a Vince point of view, it's got to go.
Bill is on the road somewhere. Bill, good morning.
Good morning, Virginia. How are you?
Well, thank you.
That's good. Virginia, my question to Gordon is
to David.
To David, I beg your pardon.
No worries.
I've had a supplier for 13 years. I've got a business and I've got a meat supplier for 13 years.
Yep.
Now I've paid him on 7 days for those last 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now prior to that, we've shifted houses, we've shifted businesses, and he's shifted factories and all that sort of thing. A couple of years ago, he didn't demand, but asked that, hey, I owe him $13,000 for invoices that haven't been paid. Now, I've said to him nicely, I said, look, I don't owe you this. I don't believe I owe you this. I've always paid in the last, you look at my payment history. So he said to me, well, look, when I get a chance, I'm going to get a forensic or a forensic accountant to have a look at invoices you have paid and invoices you haven't. Well, over the 6 or 7 years that this has been outstanding, as I said, I haven't got any evidence that I have paid, and I'm sure he hasn't got any evidence.
Sorry, Bill, how do you pay this person? Cash?
Or... Well, originally I paid the drivers cash, and then we went to electronic and cheques as well.
So, all right. So I'm not worried about anything that's more than 6 or 7 years old, because they're too old, because the Limitation of Actions Act will render it unenforceable.
Oh, okay. That's what I want to know, Dave.
All right. So 6 or 7 years, not worried about it. All right. The more recent stuff, it's very important that you keep a paper trail, and your paper trail. He produces invoices. Your banking records will show the payments.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I'm not worried about current payments because for the last 3 or 4 years, I've paid on the knocker all the time. And he hasn't demanded anything, but I'm just asking, in a couple of years' time, if I close the business down, he might turn around and say to me, look, there's an outstanding amount of $13,000. Yeah. I want it, although he's got no proof, and I haven't got any proof that I've paid it either.
Well, you'll have better banking records. Your banking records, apart from the cash payments, will show what you paid him and when. But his starting point is he has to give you the invoices that he hasn't paid. If they're more than 6 years old, then the answer would be, I'm really very sorry, they're too old to recover, go away.
Oh, thank you. That's
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks,
Thank
Bill.
you, David.
Good to hear from you. Thanks so much. Philip's called in from Noble Park. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, David. Hello, Virginia.
Hello.
Great job.
Thank you.
David, a question, mate. I have a VCAT hearing today by telephone. I have appeared in VCAT prior to the day when we appeared in person. I'm a bit concerned and a bit nervous. How do they run it when there's 3 people or so?
On a phone conference,
Present.
you
Yes.
take it in turns. So are you a party to this?
Yes.
So you give your evidence in the same way that you normally would. You're just giving it to a disembodied voice somewhere in King Street
Okay.
or at home. Yep.
Okay. And in person, you could interject.
You can still interject, but the problem with the phone conferences is that there's no body language. There's no agitation on your seat.
Can I just ask, David, Philip, I'm sorry, is it via Zoom?
No, it's not face. It's only verbal.
So it's not on a video?
On
Oh,
the
okay,
phone.
right.
No, it's not.
Which
video
actually makes it harder to do because there's no.
Well, you can raise your hand on Zoom.
Yes.
You can actually
Yep.
do the raise your hand thing.
The answer, Philip, is you just make notes and come in at the end.
When you're asked.
Okay.
Good luck.
Fabulous. Thank you very much.
you.
I can understand feeling nervous, my goodness. Quick update for you. You mentioned there the planningalerts.org.au.
Yes,
Well, you've crashed the website, David.
I'm very sorry.
Just one mention, everyone in Melbourne got on board because everyone in Melbourne is listening to you right now. And you've broken the website. It says here, just went on that website and it's crashed. The power of you, David. And hi, Virginia, says Deb in Baronia. Didn't take long to clog that website. We've got time for just one more call. David in Caulfield gets the nod this morning. Hi, David.
Hi, David and Virginia. We've got had a garage, 2-storey garage wall on our neighbours for probably 70 years.
Yes.
They have been growing an ivy or creeper up the wall. It died a couple of years ago, and now they've grown another one. It's got all these stickers that get into the mortar, and it's now up onto the roof and into the gutter and everything.
Yes.
What are our rights on that?
You have an action against your neighbour for the damage caused to your wall.
Okay.
So it's there. It's his
I
wall,
wonder-
even though it faces onto their property. It's his wall.
Yes, so what you might, there's an imaginary boundary which is the face of David's wall.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that moves inside David is an encroachment by the creeper from the neighbour.
So if the creeper just sticks to the wall but doesn't stick any suckers in, is that okay?
But it can't stick to the wall without putting stuckers in.
Yeah.
So in an ideal world, you would probably try and build something like a mesh frame
Right.
that it could grow on, but you'd need to do something that would just grow on the mesh and not on the wall.
David, do you have good relations with your neighbours?
Oh, average?
Yes.
They're
Well, once
about
you
to get
start
a lot
costing
worse.
them money, it's going to get worse, David.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good luck.
The problem is it's getting onto the roof and getting into
Yeah.
the gutter and getting, onto coming right round the corner onto weatherboards, and we've had to replace the weatherboards once about 5 years ago.
Oh
Yes.
dear. No, I hear you.
Yep.
Look, that's a big problem. Good luck.
Okay.
I'm particularly interested in that because I suspect that we might have a similar problem at home. But
Oh.
I think we're the creator of the problem with the creeper.
Okay.
So shall we just go home and rip it down?
Go home and, yes. Gently, though, because you don't want to pull any more mortar out than you already have.
If anyone called Virginia calls you next week on this program, listen carefully to their voice, will you?
I will. I will.
David
I grew up in
Whiting.
Essendon, so
Yeah.
everyone who rings from Essendon, I look and see. Listen, I think, do I know that
Do
person?
I know that person?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
I haven't yet. But,
my voice might be a giveaway. David, always a pleasure to see you. Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
Virginia.
Facebook, great to have you on board as well. I hope you've enjoyed our streaming here this morning. It's nice to see him in action, isn't it? And we've got a little bit of homework we'll update you on when David comes back this time next week as well. So see you later, Facebook.